It's a snowy school dismissal at North Park Elementary School in Radcliffe. Students shuffling to the bus, flurries whirling around the car rider line.
They were super excited this morning driving to school and seeing the snow.
You know, I was dropping him at school and he's like, "What is that?" I'm like, "That's the brakes, you know, we're on ice." It's called black ice.
Take a look at these Meadowview Elementary students playing in the first snow of the school year. Class was in session as normal for Hardin County schools, but some surrounding counties called it off. Meade County had a non-traditional instruction day and Breckenridge County had a snow day.
Whatever happens atmospherically didn't happen in Hardin County, Kentucky. That happened at other places.
Public Relations Director for Hardin County Schools, John Wright, explains what goes into the decision to keep kids in the classroom during inclement weather.
The winter weather advisory didn't come out until 9 o'clock. We knew road temperatures were good, and so we made the decisions to truck ahead, and we've had no incidents. Our bus drivers did great this morning, as they always do.
Saying the district tries to avoid NTI days when they can.
We have them, we use them, but it is begrudgingly. I will say that because we know that a day of school is much more valuable. A day where they come in, they get that education, and a lot of students depend on those meals that they're going to receive from our child nutrition teams.
Some parents we talked to say while your roads may be clear, other families might see a different commute.
Mine is kind of like a windy road where it kind of has some like hills and turns and whatnot, and I was sliding everywhere.
This is the White Mills neighborhood, a more rural area of Hardin County. This bridge slicked over.
I think this morning I was a little frustrated that they were in just because the roads were a little rough this morning.
While different districts in our southern counties made different decisions about school on Monday, parents agree it's pretty early in the school year to see this kind of snowfall.
So I am standing here as living, breathing proof that Democrats can and should win everywhere in the United States of America.
Kentucky Governor Andy Beshear says he wants a Democrat in the White House in 2028, as many speculate whether he himself will run for president. Listen carefully to Beshear's words, talking to a crowd of energized Democrats in Nebraska about access to health care and a good education.
That's what the American people want, and they know that's what I want for them.
Then there was his typical rallying cry to close his speech, but with a new twist.
Are you ready to elect a Democratic president in 2028?
He obviously sees himself as a contender for president of the United States.
Louisville Republican strategist Jake Cox, who watched Beshear's Nebraska speech online, tells me there are major flaws to Beshear's resume through a national lens.
Taking a look at what he's done for the Democrat Party here in the state of Kentucky, they've lost seats since he's been in office. The governor's out there trying to sell a pitch of this is how Democrats win elections, but in reality, this isn't how he's actually won elections here in the state of Kentucky.
I asked Democrat Coleman Elridge, chair of the Kentucky Democratic Party, who introduced Beshear in Nebraska,
Andy Beshear,
if he heard a presidential candidate on stage.
He is a leader that this country needs and needs to hear from, because what he has shown in Kentucky is that he can bring people together and he can deliver results.
Beshear was on stage just days after Democrats swept key races in multiple states, including blue Virginia and New Jersey, and he was quick to tout victories in states that went for Donald Trump in 2024. The biggest test yet for Beshear's message will be in 2026, when he's in charge of helping Democrats win in 36 governor's races as chair of the Democratic Governors Association. In a one-on-one interview prior to his address, Beshear told me his goal is to change the map.
The American people are crying out for help. They're worried the American dream is no longer viable.
As to when Beshear might consider a 2028 presidential run, he's staying firm that it's a conversation he'll have with his family after his time leading the Democratic Governors Association is done.
We're going to look around and we're going to say, am I the candidate that can help heal this country, or is it someone else? No timetable.
Back to GOP strategist Jake Cox. He also pointed out that a sitting state senator, Robin Webb, actually switched parties from Democrat to Republican under Beshear's watch. Meanwhile, Democrat Coleman Elridge says the fact that Beshear is getting invited to events across the country shows that his message carries. Doug.
The Environmental Protection Agency, also known as the EPA, says as of November 10th, they've collected 286,000 gallons of oil water mix. And you'll see right here behind me that they have crews working into the nighttime hours, all in an effort to continue collecting that contaminated water. In the daylight, the action is clear. Crews using multiple tools to recover water mixed with oil from the UPS crash. You can see the sheen on top of the water. Contaminated after the crash sent it streaming into creeks and waterways.
The MSD has been coordinating the cleanup here. They have helped stop 30,000 gallons of oil from going into our groundwater.
3 days after the crash, Louisville MSD released this map showing waterways potentially contaminated by runoff. The path includes Pond Creek, which sits in Nancy Bryant's backyard in Valley Station.
The last few days we've had a lot of noise, and especially at night, some bright lights over here like floodlights, and some really loud sounds.
She says it wasn't communicated with her or neighbors that runoff cleanup was underway until Monday.
I was just blown away that this far out we would have this much work going on, and a lot should be said for the guys that are out there working in that water in Pond Creek, because that can't be an easy thing to do.
A close look at the impacted creeks clearly shows contamination in the water. This discolored tire with a pool of purple in it paints the picture.
We are still asking people to avoid contact with waterways, especially along Pond Creek, the northern ditch, and southern ditch.
For Bryant, the big concern is if it's impacting her personal pond that feeds through Pond Creek.
My dog drinks out of that pond every single day because we walk back here. I'm thinking about other wildlife, and I just wanted to make sure that it was safe. And I was concerned about the fact that we weren't really notified. Perhaps I should have been more aware, but I wasn't thinking about this far down there would be such issues.
She says MSD Hazmat plans to test this pond to help give her peace of mind. In Louisville, Jose Alonso, WHAS11 Night Team on your side.
1 minute you're sitting there, you're playing with your kids, you're laughing, you know, and then you're running for your life. We all made it through that, as I call it, the gates of hell.
November 4th was a regular evening for Mary Ballinger and her children, parked outside Embry's Auto Parts on Grade Lane.
And we go to Daddy's work and wait for Daddy.
Waiting for her husband, Terry Ballinger, to get off of work.
And I just happened to look up in my windshield and we see a plane, the nose of a plane, coming directly towards us.
Mary says her family was in the path of the MD-11 UPS cargo plane that crashed near the Muhammad Ali International Airport 1 week ago, taking 14 lives.
We hear a boom, we see the black smoke. We hear another boom, the whole back of the plane is engulfed in flames, and so is our van. This is jet fuel. This is all jet fuel that you see on it. Here's you can even feel it. It's burnt.
This is the family minivan they escaped in.
And that's our 6-year-old. That's his shoe.
Surrounded by heat, the imprint of a sneaker scarred into the floor of the car.
My husband says he's getting rid of the floor mats. He doesn't want to look at that anymore either.
Terry has worked on Grade Lane for 17 years. On this day, walking through the exit door, instead of being greeted by his family, he faced a wall of flames.
My husband immediately dropped his cooler and dropped to his knees, his boss said, and said, my wife, my kids, they're gone.
But she says their 6-year-old was the first one out of the fire.
And he ran to his daddy, and then we all ran to him.
The Ballingers then took off in their van.
I see it as it saved our life, but also I hate it because it's a constant reminder. Yes, we went through it, we got out of it, but putting my whole family in that van again, it's really hard to do.
Yes, it was routine.
Jeff Coates, a retired airplane inspector, speaking with me over the phone on Tuesday. The ABC affiliate in San Antonio, KSAT, is reporting Coates' former employer, ST Engineering, worked on the UPS MD-11F about a month and a half before it crashed. FAA records show Coates' signature on airworthiness directives for this aircraft as recently as 2023. The forms refer to the company as VT San Antonio Aerospace. Todd Inman with the NTSB confirmed Friday they are looking at the maintenance from September 3rd to October 18th as part of the investigation.
It was in for what we call a heavy check.
Coates says the plane was in for a C check, which is something it gets every 2 years. A center wing upper fuel tank had a crack in it. Based on what you've seen about this crash, could that have been any part of this crash, do you think?
100% no chance.
How big of a deal the San Antonio maintenance is still undetermined, but the NTSB is paying close attention.
We've actually dispatched additional people to retrieve some records. The FAA has assisted us, so we feel that we're going to get all the information we need.
Coates just asks people to be careful as we wait for the final report.
And to throw UPS under the airlines or under the bus or VT is not fair. Let's see what happened.
The 31-year-old airplane had almost 93,000 hours of flight time. After this maintenance, it completed 28 more flights before the crash on November 4th. UPS and FedEx said over the weekend that they have grounded their MD-11s out of an abundance of caution. Coates would not answer if he thinks the C checks for these aircrafts need to be more frequent than every 2 years, leaving it up to the FAA and NTSB. In the studio, Travis Breeze, WHAS11 on your side.
WHAS11's Ian Hardwitt and photojournalist Jessica Farley were there when the coroner and the mayor read the names twice. And Ian, the coroner and her team have spent so much time at that half-mile-long scene. When did families hear about the loved ones that they lost in this crash?
Doug, they found out yesterday. That ended a week of limbo, confirming their worst fears, kicking off that grief, making it feel even more real than it did before.
The names of those that are missing match the names of those who the coroner has identified as victims.
Standing in Metro Hall Wednesday, Coroner Joanne Farmer held all 14 precious names, bringing them to light for families who suspected the worst. Their loved ones died when a UPS cargo jet crashed south of the runway.
I had a family member ask me yesterday, how do you ever get used to this? And I said, I don't. If I get used to this and it doesn't bother me anymore, I'm in the wrong profession. I need to move on to something else.
With the names read, she hopes healing can begin.
Captain Dana Diamond, 62 years old. Captain Richard Wartenberg, 57 years old. First Officer Lee Truitt, 45 years old. Angela Anderson, 45 years old. Carlos Fernandez, 52 years old. Louisness Thedden, 47 years old. And Kimberly Asa, who was the granddaughter, 3 years old, of Mr. Faden. Trinidad Trina Chavez, 37 years old. Tony Crane, 65 years old. John Locks, 52 years old. John Spray, 45 years old. Matthew Sweets, 37 years old. Ella Petty Horton, 31 years old. And Megan Washburn, 35 years old.
While the smoke has faded, the memories of those lost live on in their families' hearts. Like Angie Anderson, her sister says she raised 4 children with a big smile. She left work and dropped off scrap metal last Tuesday. Or Trina Chavez, a grade A employee cherished by her kids and coworkers alike. And a dozen more.
Every one of these names is a circle of family, friends, stories that will forever be unfinished. I've heard it said that everyone dies twice. Once when you take your last breath, and again when your name is spoken for the last time. So as we hear these names today, let's never forget their lives, their laughter, their love.
Love, just one side of a coin shared with grief.
The grief will lighten a little bit as time goes on, but the price of love is grief, you know.
And Angie Anderson's family and Trina Chavez's family shared those photos with us today. They both mentioned those smiles that will not soon be forgotten. In Louisville, I'm Ian Hardwitt for WHAS 11 on your side.
November 12, 2024 in Clifton, our Sky 11 drone shows the enormous response to the Givaudan plant explosion 1 year ago. 6 months later, this was the site, right in the middle of a federal investigation. And now, the area is mostly cleared, but you can still see some of that mangled debris pushed to one side.
The scar will always be there. You can move this stuff and clean it up and fix it. But the scar of losing that man hurt a lot of people.
Malaika Watson lost her partner of 5 years that day, Givaudan employee Kevin K.D. Dawson.
What do I miss most? His kisses.
He was beloved.
He was a teacher. He was a provider. He was a protector. Life's hard, but to have somebody to do it with you and want to do it with you, it's hard for someone just to take that away from you and then act like it doesn't mean anything.
The factory blast also killed 29-year-old Givaudan worker Austin Jaggers and injured several other employees, including Sharice Johnson.
I felt bad because I made it out and 2 people did it.
The emotions a year later are complicated for her. She thanks God she's alive today.
I felt grateful, but I also felt like, why did he save me? Like, what was so special that he couldn't cover the other 2 lives?
Johnson was inside the plant that day, thrown up against the wall after tank number 6 blew up. The ceiling caved in on her.
So I just didn't want people to really forget what really happened that day and to let them know there was 2 souls lost. And I would never forget those beautiful souls.
Givaudan has already said they won't be rebuilding on the site, but as of now, the company still owns the property. Many in the Clifton community have told us they don't want to see another manufacturing facility built in its place. Metro Councilman Andrew Owen says the city is listening.
The mayor and I have told the neighbors in Clifton that this will no longer be an industrial facility, right? But until we actually do that, they have to trust us.
The end of the government shutdown could be the start of a hemp industry shakeup. There's a provision in the U.S. funding bill that would regulate THC and hemp products nationwide. The hemp industry here in Kentucky is torn about what this could mean for business.
So many people benefit, and now so many people are going to be hurt.
What we essentially saw was a real redefinition of what industrial hemp is.
The U.S. Senate passed a spending bill to reopen the government. Part of the bill would put a cap on items with THC content at 0.4 milligrams per container, which would effectively make products like these illegal across America.
I feel like I'm in an alternate universe where we should be promoting a natural product. Instead, we're trying to walk back and go back to prohibition.
Hemp business owners Dee Taylor and Chad Rosen sell different types of hemp products. Taylor, owner of 502 Hemp, sells CBD gummies and oils for health and wellness. Rosen, founder of Victory Hemp Foods, produces hemp-derived nutritional ingredients sold in grocery stores.
It's a little bit disingenuous to say that it's going to destroy the hemp industry, because that's to suggest that companies like ours aren't a part of the hemp industry.
Senator Mitch McConnell has pushed to close a loophole in the 2018 Farm Bill. It allowed products with intoxicating properties to hit the market.
There wasn't a loophole. They knew what they were doing when they passed the Farm Bill.
Rosen, pushing for industry-wide regulations.
There are some bad actors that have made intoxicating products that are dangerous, and we don't know what the health effects are, and they're sold in places that they shouldn't be to people that shouldn't be using them.
Taylor, fearing she'll lose her business.
What about the customers that use these products? I mean, a lot of them use them for so many different issues, from cancer to autism to seizures.
U.S. Senator Rand Paul led an effort on Monday to remove the language, but the amendment didn't get the support it needed. Now, the bill is in front of the House, then possibly the president. In Louisville, Alexandra Goldberg, WHAS11, on your side.
Relief. I was very happy to hear that something is being done.
It's what Cassie Clifford of Louisville has been pushing for since her son was rushed to the hospital earlier this year.
And that second dose is what did it to him.
He survived after taking kratom, nicknamed by some as gas station heroin.
We are losing people to this
because it naturally contains a small amount of what's called 7-OH, an unregulated chemical in the United States.
But it is no longer legal to sell or possess 7-OH in Kentucky.
Cabinet for Health and Family Services Secretary Dr. Stephen Stack, well known for his COVID-19 updates during the pandemic, calls 7-OH a dangerous and addictive narcotic. He talked to me just days after Governor Andy Beshear announced his administration has moved to eliminate it from store shelves by classifying it as a Schedule I drug.
The fact that it is now a Schedule I substance gives law enforcement additional enforcement levers that they can use.
Most Kratom products contain 7-OH, but many vape shops and gas stations have sold it at higher concentrations, in some cases on its own. Stack says authorities will first work to educate businesses to remove these products, but if they don't comply after that, he tells me citations or even criminal charges could follow.
We don't desire to cause hardship for businesses. That was not the goal. The goal was to get a dangerous chemical out of the population.
But some 7-OH advocates believe this crackdown is misguided.
I think it's a really unfortunate move, especially in a place like Kentucky that has really borne the brunt of the opioid and fentanyl crisis.
Jeff Smith is the National Policy Director for the Holistic Alternative Recovery Trust. It's a nonprofit that says 7-OH is essential for people trying to manage chronic pain.
It's a very unwise restriction that is probably going to cause more people who have struggled with addiction to opioids to turn back to street drugs, turn back to the black market, where substances that they get could be laced with pretty much anything.
Cassie Clifford, though, says the proof is in the people who have reached out to her since our first story aired.
Several of them have lost loved ones, fiancés, sons, husbands that are gone.
And what about those bottles we purchased specifically for this story? I asked Stack what we should do with them. He said, pour them down the drain. Now, Dr. Stack tells me it'll take time for Kentucky public health inspectors and local law enforcement to enforce this new regulation. Again, he says if you possess anything more than the pure kratom leaf itself or its extracts, you're likely in violation. By the way, in Indiana, kratom has been illegal since 2014.
You know, I'm an old man now. I'm 77 years old, okay? But, hey, the Juice Bowl is a major thing for us here in the West End.
The annual Juice Bowl has become a historical staple for proud West Louisvillians like Lamont Marshall Sr.
But I didn't compete myself until I was probably about 12. It's a tradition. It's been doing it for over 75 years now. Each generation, you know, they get older, they retire from playing football or whatever, but their kids and grandkids, you know, keep it going.
For 75 years, the Juice Bowl has taken place at Shawnee Park. It's been supported by Metro Councilwoman Donna Purvis of District 5, who represents the area.
Whatever I could help them with, like porta potties or what have you, that's something that, you know, we would provide them with.
This year, new organizers obtained the permit to host the annual event, which brought some confusion if the games were being moved to Flagey Field Park by the previous organizers.
They may have been looking to have their own event of the original Juice Bowl. They may have been looking to possibly have their own event at Flagey.
That plan has been retracted, and the Juice Bowl will go on where it's always been, at Shawnee Park, but under new hands and sponsored by District 1 Metro Councilwoman Tammy Hawkins.
The community said that they just wanted to see so much more, and they asked me if I would support that, and I did just that.
Hawkins says this year will include a kids zone with bounce houses, and they plan to feed every player.
I'll say this boldly, you know, the past few years, the Juice Bowl, it was more police presence than it was people.
As far as the parade, previously organized by Purvis.
I have not worked with anyone from this new group of organizers. No one has reached out to me and asked me anything about, you know, putting on a parade.
Although the march may not go on, families are getting ready for another community celebration. In Louisville, Jose Alonso, WHAS11 Night Team on your side.
The letters read, "Dear First Responders,
thank you for saving the lives. You are a hero.
Some 50 heartfelt messages handwritten and hand-drawn from Kennedy Elementary schoolers.
You are so brave.
These men and women of Okolona Fire were among the first to respond to the Louisville airport after the fiery crash of UPS Flight 2976. Okolona firefighter Marcus Hudson raced to the disaster zone that night, described as an apocalyptic scene that was raining oil.
Bunch of fire, smoke everywhere. That's when, just for a second, you kind of just tear down the veil and go, okay, this is going to be a lot.
2, 1. Awesome. Thank you guys so much.
At Station 76, Congressman Morgan McGarvey honors the entire department, documenting their bravery and congressional record.
Never had anything like that happen before. Never met a congressman before, so super awesome.
Hudson tells us his biggest concern the night of the crash were those storage tanks filled with oil.
The tankers that was on fire, potential for more explosions to happen.
Fellow firefighter Michael Marshall was out at dinner with his wife when he got the call.
I've never seen anything like that, and I hope I never see anything like that again.
That scent of oil still strong 10 days later.
Trucks, gear, you can smell it.
Federal investigators are expected to issue a preliminary report within about 30 days from the night of the crash, which times out to early December at the latest.
People do deserve to know the cause of this as quickly as possible. People need answers. We want that. We also want it to be correct, right, and thorough, so we are pushing for that balance.
I asked Congressman McGarvey if before Thanksgiving is a possibility.
I hope so.
And as the NTSB pores over evidence to determine the cause, the massive support for these first responders,
This one's from Sarah. She has like a little ribbon on the back.
continues to pour in.